Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and we're going to talk about a brand new, awesome tabletop role-playing game, which is Daniel J. Fox's Flames of Freedom, powered by Zweihander. All right, and this is a game that every Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Dungeon Master should own. All right, and they should consider running it. All right, it's a fantastic, excellent, brand new tabletop game. It's very much worth talking about, and I am recommending it. 4 out of 5 stars I would give this game. It's quite good. It's really, really excellent. All right. Now, first of all, let's talk about something. People are like, I'll give you the comment before you even say it. You're saying, Scott, why are you talking about games beyond Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition? There's a good reason. All right. First of all, the internet absolutely hates nuance, right? So I have said repeatedly, right, that what you should every tabletop role-playing game, everyone who takes the main seat in tabletop role-playing games, right? Most of them, they're called game masters, right? Once you start down the tabletop role-playing game road, you should run Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition as your primary game. Absolutely no tabletop role-playing game on the planet should be played at a rate of more than 51% of any tabletop role-playing participants' content, okay? Only Dungeons & Dragons gets run at 51% or more, okay? And actually, it should be 51 to 90%. No one should run Dungeons & Dragons only. That's not healthy, okay? So I am saying that every single tabletop role-playing game participant, okay, players and dungeon masters need to run the current version of Dungeons & Dragons, right now that's 5th edition, at a rate of 51 to 90%. And the reason why is so that the entire, is so that Dungeons & Dragons accomplishes the goals that only it can accomplish. The biggest one, which is to utterly defeat video games, okay? I want video game play to shrink, and I want Dungeons & Dragons play to grow until Dungeons & Dragons is played larger than the number one video game in the world, which right now, to my knowledge, is Fortnite. Okay? All right, and I think you can all agree that Dungeons & Dragons should be played at a higher rate than Fortnite. Is there anybody out there that would disagree with that? Like, okay. All right. So, yeah. All right. So that's my actual position, right? So I have a very extensive collection of tabletop role-playing games far beyond Dungeons & Dragons, right? So I do own the MM, the DMG, and the PHB in every single version of Dungeons & Dragons. I'm very proud of that. I also own the entire collection of the Orange Spine Easleys from the 1980s. Fantastic Dungeons & Dragons collection. I also own every single version that's ever been printed of Shadowrun. Love it. I also buy every single book that Runehammer Games makes, right? So I am not somebody who says you should only run Dungeons & Dragons. I'm saying in order to help the hobby, in order to help Dungeons & Dragons achieve the goals that it should achieve, Dungeons & Dragons should be the primary game, not the only game, of every single Dungeon Master and Dungeon player, okay? All right, so let's talk about Flames of Freedom, all right? It's a fantastic brand new game. So first of all, if you don't know about, you have to understand Zweihander in order to understand Flames of Freedom. You can buy, so Zweihander is a very, very, very important tabletop role-playing game. It's made by a gentleman by the name of Daniel J. Fox. He is important because he has surpassed every single non-Wizards of the Coast tabletop role-playing game creator on the planet, and Zweihander is the most successful indie tabletop role-playing game that exists from the perspective of new game created, distributed today. Okay, especially that was created within the modern realm, right? So Zweihander is not 10 years old; it's less than a decade old. It has modern layout, it has modern printing, it has modern game design, okay? And the big thing that I'm really impressed is that Daniel J. Fox did something that very few people do anymore, okay? He sat down, he did the work, he created a tabletop role-playing game from the ground up, which was Zweihander, Zweihander is grimdark fantasy tabletop role-playing game. It has its own rule system. It's not based off of anything. It's not derivative, right? It is its own unique tabletop role-playing game. He sat his butt in a chair. He finished the whole thing, and then he didn't stop there, right? He didn't just publish it as a PDF and do a lightning press. He did the hard work, and that book is available in Barnes and Noble. And that is a very, very high bar, right? And the reality is the vast majority of indie tabletop role-playing games are garage band quality, and they're just not that great when it comes to writing, layout, art, and distribution. And Zweihander executes across all of those, and it's brilliant. And its rules engine is right in the middle of Flames of Freedom. Now, what is Flames of Freedom? Flames of Freedom is so exciting, right? It's really, really brilliant game. So it's 1776, the birth of America, right? Plus, plus Monster Madness, vampires, werewolves, skin shapers, skin changers, like every weird thing that would show up in X-Files is there, right? So it's like Deadlands meets, that's it. That's the hook. It's Hamilton meets Deadlands, right? It's just brilliant, right? It's the Weird Wild West, but not the Weird Wild West. It's the Weird Wild East, right? And it's like, hey, there's the Liberty Bell. Is that a werewolf? And it's brilliant. It's just such a wonderfully unique, awesome setting. And there's so many, and you could play, characters that come from a Native American background. You could, play a redcoat. You could play people who are ready to get rid of the monarch, right? And all of the adventure that happened in 1776 around us, breaking ourselves off from England and becoming a free nation. You can mix vampires, werewolves, banshees, witches, like all the coolest Halloween ingredients in there, and it is brilliant, right? The other thing is it took a lot of courage to create this game, okay? Because the reality is, boy, do not step lightly into game creation today, because if you get it wrong, Twitter will disembowel you. Like, it is just like, figuratively, they will figuratively disembowel you. It is not good. If you get, gender representation, if you get preference representation wrong, if you come up across a social justice issue that people care about deeply, not a joke, Twitter can end your company in a week. Like, you could be finished, right? And this game is fraught with social justice problems, right? And Daniel J. Fox did not back down. He moved forward with tolerance, with kindness, with a genuine desire to create a game that deals with major social justice issues in a way that is fair to everyone. I don't think he had perfect execution, but when you look at it, you can at least tell that he intended to make a game that was fun and dealt with real social justice issues and allowed people to answer questions about social justice issues and really engage with social justice issues and do it in a way that included tolerance and included kindness and included empathy. And it's brilliant. And he had to, I already saw it on Twitter, like, it's already started. People are like, this got wrong, this got wrong, this got wrong. And Twitter will come for you. They will come for you to tear you down the minute you create something, right? And I think part of that is there's a lot of frustrated people on Twitter who have, like, never even written the adventure that's in the back of their head, and they certainly haven't, created an entire tabletop role-playing game from the ground up. I have. You can find it on DriveThruRPG or itch.io, and it's not easy. And the reality is, I think a lot of people on Twitter get really riled up and try to destroy people's companies, specifically because they're angry that they haven't done what they wanted to do, and that is create the same tabletop role-playing game because they haven't done the work, and so they get all uppity and frustrated, and then try to tear down people who have actually done what they wish they had done. So my hat's off to Daniel J. Fox. It's a brilliant game. I'm really excited to play it. I also am really impressed with his courage to make something that is a hair's breadth away from the social justice issues that we're dealing with today. That's done with empathy, kindness, tolerance, a large amount of intelligence, and it took courage to build this. My hat's off, Daniel J. Fox. If you're a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition DM, this has got to be on your shelf. It is fantastic. And this is what we want from Dungeons and Dragons. We want Dungeons and Dragons to continue to be a hair's breadth away from the cultural questions that we care about today, and at the same time make it so that when we bring our players to the table, they can have a lot of fun. So, and I think that's exactly what Flames of Freedom does, and that's what Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition has been doing since 2014. Well, that's my opinion. What do you think? Have you tried this game out? Are you interested in a Hamilton meets Deadlands setting? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.